What's going on? YouTube, listen up, young elder gang. This is Ted Strokes at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. Fam, I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes in this video. You will find history definitions, scripture information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning. The truth, keep in mind. This content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hit that bell, and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. The First Amendment protects 5 fundamental freedoms: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to assemble peacefully, and the right to petition the government. It prevents Congress from making laws that establish a religion, prohibit the free exercise of religion, abridge freedom of speech or the press, or prevent people from peaceably assembling or petitioning the government for a redress of grievances. This guarantees 2 key things. The government cannot establish an official religion, Establishment Clause, and it cannot prohibit individuals from practicing their own religion, Free Exercise Clause. Freedom of speech. This protects an individual's right to express their opinions and ideas without government censorship. This protection extends to symbolic speech, art, and music, not just verbal communication. Freedom of the press. This ensures that the media can report news and information without government interference. Right to assemble. This protects the right of people to gather peacefully for any purpose, including protests and demonstrations. Right to petition. This guarantees the right of individuals and groups to ask the government to correct injustices or address grievances. The First Amendment protects 5 fundamental freedoms: religion, speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. The First Amendment can be violated by government actions that censor protected speech, discriminate based on viewpoint, or punish speech in unprotected categories like incitement or true threats. Violations can also occur if the government restricts access to information, as seen with library censorship, or by prohibiting student speech that is not obscene, disruptive, or does not involve advocating illegal drug use. Government censorship and discrimination. Viewpoint discrimination. The government cannot favor one viewpoint over another. For example, a school allowing a pro-life rally but blocking a pro-life one would be a violation. Censorship of protected speech. Punishing or preventing speech that is not in an unprotected category can be a violation. For instance, the Supreme Court ruled against a law that prohibited flag burning, as it was seen as a form of symbolic political speech that was protected. Content-based restrictions. Regulations that target the subject matter of speech are often unconstitutional unless they fall into specific exceptions. Restricting access to information. Government entities are limited in their ability to restrict access to information. For example, expurgating library materials can violate the First Amendment. Punishing unprotected speech. Incitement to imminent lawless action. Speech that is intended to and likely to provoke immediate illegal activity is not protected. True threats. Statements that are serious expressions of intent to commit unlawful violence against an individual or group are not protected. Defamation. False statements of fact that harm an individual's reputation are not protected and can lead to a violation if the statement is made with the proper state of mind, e.g., actual malice for public figures. Obscenity. Speech that is considered obscene under the established legal test, appeals to prurient interest, depicts sexual conduct in a patently offensive way, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, is not protected. Fighting words, face-to-face insults or abusive language that are likely to provoke an immediate breach of the peace may not be protected. Public school and university limitations. Student speech. Schools can restrict student speech that is obscene, promotes illegal drug use, or is disruptive to the educational environment. School newspapers, school administrators, can censor articles in a student newspaper if they have legitimate educational reasons to do so, such as those outlined in the Hazelwood School District vs. Kuhlmeyer case. University harassment policies. Universities can punish speech that is targeted to individuals or groups based on protected characteristics, such as race or religion, as long as it meets the definition of harassment under the policy. Examples of violations and non-violations. Non-violation example: a student who shouts, "I hit it first," at another student in a joking manner did not violate university policy because the comment was an isolated incident that did not rise to the level of harassment. Violation example: a university that punishes a student for expressing their opinion on a controversial topic when the university does not have a policy on the topic is a violation of the student's free speech rights. Police can violate the First Amendment by retaliating against free speech, interfering with the right to assemble, or restricting the right to record them. This can include actions like making wrongful arrests, using excessive force against protesters, preventing journalists from covering events, or confiscating cameras. Retaliation for speech or assembly. Arrests. Arresting someone for expressing views, especially if the arrest is based on what they said or their political activity, can be a violation. Excessive force, using unnecessary violence against individuals or a crowd engaged in a protest or other form of protected assembly. Dispersal orders, breaking up a lawful protest without a clear and present danger, such as an immediate threat to public safety, can be an illegal use of force. Targeting journalists. Interfering with, arresting, or using violence against journalists who are reporting on police misconduct is a violation of their First Amendment rights. Preventing recording. Forbidding or interfering with the public's right to record police performing their duties in a public space. Other related violations. Interfering with legal rights. Police may violate constitutional rights when they make a false arrest or engage in malicious prosecution without probable cause. Unlawful information collection. Collecting information on individuals based solely on their race, ethnicity, or support for unpopular causes can be a First Amendment violation. Obstructing justice. Attempting to prevent a victim or witness from reporting misconduct or fabricating evidence also falls under this category. A judge can violate the First Amendment by issuing restrictive or overbroad gag orders, punishing speech based on its content or viewpoint, or by imposing arbitrary or unreasonable restrictions on expressive conduct. For example, a judge might overstep by issuing a gag order that restricts a trial participant's public comments on a case without a compelling justification or when less restrictive alternatives exist, or by improperly punishing or censoring speech that does not pose a significant threat to the legal proceedings. Violations by a judge. Gag orders. A judge may violate the First Amendment by issuing a gag order that is overly broad, prohibits truthful speech, or is not justified by a compelling interest, such as ensuring a fair trial. For instance, an order that prevents a trial participant from making public comments outside of court without a compelling reason is a potential violation. Censorship and viewpoint discrimination. A judge can violate the First Amendment by censoring speech based on its content or viewpoint. This could include an order that prohibits certain religious speech or favors one parent in a child custody case because of their religious views. Restricting expressive conduct. A judge can violate the First Amendment by imposing arbitrary or unreasonable restrictions on expressive conduct that is sufficiently imbued with elements of communication, like wearing a particular political T-shirt in the courthouse. Retaliation. A judge can violate the First Amendment through retaliation, such as taking adverse action against a person for reporting misconduct or for opposing a discriminatory practice, especially if the speech was not disruptive to the proceedings. Imposing unreasonable burdens. A judge could violate the First Amendment by imposing unreasonable burdens on speech, such as requiring a permit for all religious speech, or restricting a candidate from loaning money to their campaign without a compelling reason. Context and limitations. Place matters. The extent to which a judge can restrict speech depends on the location. While free speech rights are robust in public forums, the government, including courts, can place greater restrictions on speech in places like courtrooms and courthouses. Balancing act. Judges often must balance First Amendment rights with other important legal interests, such as ensuring a fair trial, protecting the integrity of the judicial process, and maintaining courtroom order. Strict scrutiny. In cases where a judge's order restricts speech, the judge's action may be subject to strict scrutiny, meaning the restriction must be narrowly tailored to serve a compelling government interest and be the least restrictive means available. The government can violate the First Amendment by suppressing speech, retaliating against individuals for their protected activities, or restricting assembly without a valid reason. Examples include using false charges to punish critics, taking action against people for protesting, or enacting laws that unfairly censor certain types of expression. Violations of freedom of speech. Retaliation. Government officials can violate the First Amendment by retaliating against individuals for speaking out. This can include bringing bogus charges, harassing businesses for their associations, or using arbitrary laws to punish critics. Censorship. The government can violate free speech by directly censoring or banning certain content. Examples include a public school principal removing articles from a student newspaper because he found them objectionable, or a town passing an ordinance that specifically targets certain types of hate speech. Restrictions on expressive conduct. The government can violate the First Amendment if it restricts a person's ability to express themselves through actions, such as creating or distributing visual recordings of police officers. Violations of freedom of assembly. Unreasonable restrictions on protest. The government can violate the First Amendment by imposing unreasonable restrictions on when, where, or how people can protest. Prohibiting access to public forums. The government cannot deny people access to public forums, such as public sidewalks, streets, and parks, for expressive activities. Violations of freedom of the press. Taking action against journalists. Government actions like confiscating equipment, using excessive force, or filing false charges against journalists are violations of the First Amendment. Preventing media from covering events. The government cannot prevent the media from covering public events in a way that chills free expression. How to identify and respond to a First Amendment violation. Identify the type of violation. Determine which specific right was violated and how. Document the incident. Keep records of the incident, including any relevant evidence such as photos or videos. Seek legal assistance. Consult with a lawyer who specializes in constitutional law or civil rights. File a lawsuit. Consider filing a lawsuit to seek damages and an injunction to stop government misconduct.